All right, let's get started. Or maybe not. Some people are fashionably late. Or very fashionably late. Okay. All right, so I want to tell you guys a bit of a story before I get started. I was 7 years old. It was Christmas Day, and Santa Claus finally delivered. What did Santa Claus deliver, you ask? Well, of course, it was a 386 with 4 megs of RAM and 33 megahertz. Who knows what I'm talking about? There are a few young guys here like, I have no idea. Millennials. So the best bit about this machine was it had the button that everyone needed, but for some strange reason, no one ever used or turned off. Does anyone know what that button is? The turbo button. All right, did anyone ever turn it off?
Yep.
You did? Get out. Why would you turn it off? To play old games? I was a Pac-Man fan, Transport Tycoon, you name it. Turning it off was cheating because it would slow things down. He's agreeing with me now. Yeah, so I had this machine, and at 7 years old, it was great. I mean, I was the usual kid, like, yeah, I'm changing directories, this is cool, I'm DIRing, this is amazing. And I got pretty good. As a matter of fact, I got to the point where I became that friend. You know that friend, the one that always gets the call, saying, hey, my computer's not working. Can you come and fix it? The first few times I went to my friend's house, actually, in all honesty, I earned friends this way. I didn't have that many friends before. So computers gave me friends before Twitter. No. So basically, at this point, I was helping them out. And then I got to the point where, as every IT person in this room knows, you don't really care about their machine anymore. So I learned the first word ever in IT tech support that can save you from any situation. Format. It got to the point where actually I could format people's machines once a month, and £5 in a month, that would be what, 120 pounds if I did a format every day. Sometimes people would ask me for a format, didn't even know what it was, but they just needed it because I always said that was the answer. And at 7, I realized that this was a quite lucrative business up until the point where I got to about 10 and realized I think I need to make a living somehow. And formatting machines on a daily basis isn't it. So I thought, well, I've got this machine. Maybe I can make software. So I searched around, and apparently there's this guy who made billions of dollars on a calculator. His name's Bill Gates, if you haven't heard of him before. And at that point, that is when I decided I'm going to do the same. I am going to build a $1 billion piece of software. Clearly, it didn't work. I'm still here. But what I want to do is walk you through that journey. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Shen CHAUHAN. I'm a senior program manager lead at Microsoft. Here's my Twitter handle. If you like what you see, please tweet with the hashtag DevReach. If you don't like what you see, please don't tweet. I don't get offended if people walk out, as long as you do it quietly and don't take friends. That's OK too. But really, today's all going to be about UWP goodness. And I want to take you on this journey about how I took my app as a 10-year-old and how now, today, at 21 years old, plus or minus 10 years or so, I'm going to convert it using UWP goodness, and hopefully we'll have a $1 billion product. So can anyone guess at 10 years old what my application would have been at the time? Silence. Because I know that if you knew, you would have done it. So believe it or not, my application was oh, interesting. Let me kill off my PowerPoint. There we go. Calculator with a history. Yes, never at that time was there a calculator that had a history. And let me show you how this works for those of you who are thinking, what does he mean, a history? Well, you can see here, 5 times. Give me a number, 1 to 9. 1 to 9, this one goes 12. 5. All right. Did you see that? Works perfectly every time. Let's try another one. Let's try another one. A number 1 to 9. 8. We'll do a plus. 6. Now I know a lot of you are thinking, what the hell am I doing in this talk? I should have gone to something more interesting. But wait, it does get better. So hopefully, that's what I'm thinking. At least you can walk out of my talk, I can't. So what I want to show you here is the fact that I also made it enterprise ready. Because my friend Dave told me I should make it enterprise ready. I had no idea what he meant. But as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm storing the history in a SQL database. Because it's kind of important to remember this every time I load this calculator. I'm also thinking now, man, what have I developed? No wonder I'm not a billionaire. So now I've got this file. I then realized that there's something clearly missing, right? Because I've got this app, 10 years old, it's amazing. But no one is using it. And clearly everyone needs a history in a calculator. So I decided at that point in time, it was all about distribution. I just couldn't distribute this app well enough that I could get it in people's hands. So today what I want to do is we are going to take Calculator Pro. I'm calling it Calculator Pro because that's the new name I gave it 10 seconds ago. We're going to take this app, we're going to convert it to a UWP, and then we're going to start adding a bunch of UWP features to it that makes it feature-rich. And we're going to pitch it, and all of you guys are going to tweet about it, and we're going to make $1 billion, and I'll share. Maybe I won't share if I make $1 billion. No, I'll share some money with you guys. Haven't disclosed how much yet. It depends on how much money I can really make from this terrible idea. So here we go. So the first thing I thought of was, well, this is all using Win32 APIs, and as a WinForms developer at the time, I need to make sure that I can put everything across, including my SQL database. So the first thing I want to do is use .NET Standard 2. Does anyone know a bit about .NET Standard 2? Cool. So, yay, great. So the great thing about .NET Standard 2 is it allows you to take your code, and it's sort of like a new version of a PCL that allows you to make it cross-plat. The great thing is with version 2 is that it's actually had 18,000 UWP APIs added to the .NET Standard. So I'm going to show you how easy it is just to take my calculation stuff here. So you can see here I've got my connection string here. Clearly at 10 years old, I didn't believe in stored procedures and SQL injection was the way forward. This is the reason why I present and not an enterprise developer. And that's my calculate stuff. And you can see there's very complex calculations. Again, we shouldn't try testing this too heavily. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to create a new project. And what you'll notice here is a .NET Standard project type. I'm going to say class library. And I'm going to call this calculation.net standard. There we go. Alrighty, so I'm going to delete this because that's what everyone does when they create a new project. Delete class.cs. And I mean, I'm not expecting a round of applause for this part of the demo. I get it's not that exciting, but I need to get there to finish off the story. But I'm going to drag and drop my class libraries. Now notice I'm not making any changes whatsoever. Right? So what I'm going to do now is go ahead, delete calculation. I'm going to add a reference to .NET Standard. Okay. Now when I run this up, hopefully everything will compile and run. Now if it doesn't, this will be a very short session. But I'm very confident in, oh no, no. The namespace SQL client. Don't worry, I got a plan for this. This proves that it's a live coding demo. So what is it complaining about? Well, it's actually complaining because SQL client is now a Nougat package. And because I'm doing a live demo, there is potential for me to make mistakes, cry in a corner, or if I know the answer, I can fix it. So here I'm going to add the Nougat package for SQL Data Client. And isn't it already installed? Should we do an uninstall and reinstall our SQL Data Client? SQL. Install. Yeah, I uninstalled it. So let's see. Finished. Maybe I need to rebuild. No. Add the reference. Who is that man that spoke? The one that knows what's going on. I should have added the reference here. Good point. Yeah. You're all with me. I'm glad. I can hear someone going hot, hot, cold, cold, cold as I'm moving the mouse. Okay, here we go. You're laughing because you know it's true. Okay, cool. Okay, you know how I said I didn't want a round of applause? I think now I do want a round of applause in this runs. Yay! Look at that beautiful calculator now using .NET Standard 2.0. Now, obviously, it's kind of painful for me, but for you guys, you're professionals. You can do this a lot faster because I haven't mastered dragging and dropping effectively yet, or even adding Nougat packages. Well, you see, this is still okay, but it doesn't get me much further. Like my users still don't know anything about it. So I thought, I'm going to jazz this up. I'm going to make this really cool. I'm going to add a UWP head. Now, in the interest of time, I'm actually going to use my good friend Git. So I'll probably need to do a git reset hard on this before I can change branch. Check out. Now the good news is, oh no, spelling. All right. Did I get a permission denied? Why am I getting a permission denied? Oh. Let's try this again. Does it have it locked? There we go. So, now I've got a UWP head. Now, granted, I'm not a designer, right? I want to say this up front. So if you guys want design advice, I am not your guy. Development advice, depending on how today goes, I may be your guy. See, what I've done here is I've added a new head. And you can see here, it's got a main page XAML and a XAML CS. And what I've done here again is I've now referenced the .NET Standard class library that I've got, which makes it a lot easier now for me to reuse the code that was more business logic-like. Let me just run this up for you so you can see what's going on. I need some music, don't I? All right, here we go. Let's get in there. Right, so as you can see, it's a slight improvement on my WinForms. Hopefully everyone knows that this is not a WinForms app now, and it's got a grid, and it's got some buttons, and it still does the same thing. So let me quickly prove to you that it's not a fake. So does anyone want to give me a number between 1 to 9? 3. Convenient. Yes. Another one? 7 and 4. Because it's a UWP, it has more calculation power, so I can add you 2-digit numbers. And you can see there, it works very effective. What's interesting here, though, is as well, don't forget that because I'm sharing a class library and it's writing out SQL, it means that my old users, or one of them, can still use the WinForms, and you'll see that the calculation is stored. So, okay, so now we've got it to share stuff. But now we're talking about trying to enhance that experience. So I've just talked about the very basics of the basics of the basics. And now what I want to introduce is something called Fluent Design. Does anyone know what Fluent Design is? Yay, a few people more than I thought. Good. So I'm going to go back to my deck. All right. By the way, these PowerPoint transitions, thanks to PowerPoint, I now look like a pro. Morph is my new best friend. So what is Fluent Design? Well, if we look at our design system on Windows 8, we had a modern UI where we catered for the 2D experience. And Fluent Design is more like an evolution of that. What we realized is UWP actually works across multiple form factors, from a small IoT device all the way to a big 85-inch Surface Hub. Now, that obviously means that you need to do different UI affordances, not just make it responsive, but also other things like if I'm in a mixed reality headset, then do I need to do something different so I can render my UI so it's more easily available and people can discover it. So I'm just going to walk you through these 5 pillars in a very sort of high-level helicopter view, so you can sort of walk through the journey as we carry on building Calculator Pro. So let's start with the first one, light. So light's kind of really important here, especially if you're building mixed reality stuff, because the great thing about light is it allows you to draw in the user so they can understand what are they clicking, where's their mouse. So you can see here multiple instances. This is one in an MR headset. This is the Windows start screen. So if any one of you guys are in the insider build, do we have insiders in here? Woohoo, thank you very much for everything you do. Keep sending feedback. We love it, even the bad stuff. Wow, you'd be surprised how often that helps. So you can see on the start menu too, they use light, and the idea is that to help users find where they basically are. There's many times where people are scrolling around with a mouse, especially on a big screen and high definition, and you start losing it. And light is one of those nice things that helps you engage the user and find out where they are. So as an app developer, this is crucial. The next thing I want to talk to you about is depth. So depth is kind of an interesting thing. So from a psychological perspective, what we want to try and do is draw users in and have them in the flow. So if we want the user to concentrate on something in particular, you can use depth in a very engaging way, where you can bring forward the things that you want them to look at, and actually push back the things that are relevant, maybe in the peripheral, but they're not necessarily the thing you want them to focus on now. So you can see some great examples here of the store. We've got like a lock screen and calendar. And then next, motion. So there is a time as a developer where you feel like you could be Steven Spielberg. And this is one of those times. So as you start transitioning through your development phases and you're trying to make things that are seamless, the best use of motion generally tends to be when you're doing navigation. If you can try and move between page to page without the user necessarily realizing there's been a page swap on them, that almost feels like success in my eyes. So we'll try and do a demo of that as well today. I mean, it's not going to look as good as Forza, but it'll still look good. And then we have material. So that gets to the point now where your user is really immersed in your application. The one thing that we're investing is material. The idea here is to make sure that your application feels like it is actually part of the real world. So you're reducing the boundary between what they see on screen and what they feel in real life. Material also gives that sense of texture and sort of the feeling of when you see something like acrylic, because you already know what acrylic feels like and looks like, you sort of have that connotation associated with that particular material. And there are many more still coming out. And then scale. So I want it to be this dude, the one like doing all the squiggling in midair and looks really cool. But as I said earlier on, with UWP, your application technically can run on any Windows 10 device. And as a developer, in most cases, you may not even know what device it's going to run on, because the variety is large and there are a ton of OEMs. And for you, you've got to make sure that you cater for all those particular type of device types. In particular, when we look at input, we are no longer a keyboard and mouse generation. We are a generation of touch. We are a generation of pen. In case of a Studio or a Surface Book 2, it's a dial. And we're going to do some of this cool stuff as well in Calculator Pro. I like I'm really selling Calculator Pro here. So these are the main 5 pillars. We are actually going to touch on some of them, not all of them, due to time constraints. But I did want to point out this hashtag, Fluent Friday. So if any of you are developing a UWP application and you want to get your it wasn't a question, but I'm glad you are developing a UWP application. Great, I hope this is useful. Appreciate any feedback if it's not. Hopefully he doesn't come to me. So if you're actually building a UWP app, like this gentleman over here, one thing you can do is actually get your designs reviewed. If it's okay for you to publicly tweet, you can tweet a screenshot or a design comp and actually hashtag it Fluent Friday. People in the Windows design team will review your application and give you feedback on how to enhance it, or maybe just say, hey, this is a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. If you need any help, let us know. So it's a great resource out there. It's free. They're doing it for a limited time. So take advantage of that for sure. So the first thing I want to do a demo on is scale. And by scale, I don't mean does it resize. Like that's not really scale. When we talk about scale, we mean it is that, but it's also input devices. So I'm going to show you in a UWP how easy it is to do inking. So if we build, if I load up my solution here. So you can see here, I've got my XAML, I've got the grid, I've got my list view, which is obviously storing all the all-important history information, and I've got a buttons grid, which has all my buttons. Now, the one thing I want to do here is add an ink canvas. Has anyone tried adding an ink canvas before? One person, 2 people. Cool. So you should know that it's as simple as going ink canvas, and then you'll just give it a name and say my ink canvas. I'm going to say grid row 1. And hopefully, if I put it in the right place, let's double check, because the last time I had a build failure, I almost cried. So we should make sure this one works for sure. All right, cool, and let's just do this. Actually, let's just do a row span. Let's run it across the whole app. Okay, and notice what's important here is that actually my ink canvas is sat at the bottom of my XAML. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want the canvas to trap everything. Alrighty. So remember, as I said, people have been using these for a while. So I'm an expert at scribbling. So the great thing here is you can see straight away with just one line of XAML, I got inking out the box. What's really great is actually we've done a lot of investments around our inking, and you can see that even if I'm pretty violent, and if anyone wants to come up here and try this, there's a 21 millisecond latency which you can't even see because I'm so quick. This is impressive. Sometimes you can do all sorts of things. And of course, you can use the eraser on the back. Okay, so let's try this. Someone give me a number between 1 to 9. 1. Okay, 1 to 9, that's not 1 or 5. 6. Oh, I think I could lose this. All right, another one. Oh, God. What? Did someone say 2? Or 9? Was that 9 I had? 9. Yes. Okay, so you can see here now I've got inking APIs. But it's more than just doodling, right? So again, I want to show you some of the cool stuff we've done around our ink recognition. So again, rather than watch you guys and you type it out, let me do this. Can I do Git with the pen? One has never tried, but I'm almost tempted to. I believe currently, not yet. Well, no, that's not true. You can bring up the Windows keyboard, like the Windows stylus, and you can start inking, and it'll do the translation and drop it in. So yes, but maybe I'm thinking I could do a GitHub client Pro that has history as well. And therefore, you could use the pen. That's not a bad idea. I should have done that one. I know you guys are liking my ideas, I can tell. Okay, so you can see here, basically, when I did the poorly, just drop the ink canvas back in. But notice it does something different now, because what I've done is I've added an extra method in here. When I do an equals, it does something. So what it's doing is it's saying, hey, if there are any strokes on the ink canvas, so you can see it's got my ink canvas, the ink presenter, so that's the thing that presents all the ink. We're very good at naming conventions, like Ultimate Home Premium. And then we have a stroke container, so everything you stroke goes into the stroke container. And I'm just saying, are there any strokes? If yes, then I want you to do some ink recognition. So here I'm just, I mean, it's kind of obvious. I feel like if I explain it, it's kind of not good. But all I'm just doing is doing the concatenation, and then I use my amazing .NET Standard 2 library to do the calculation on that text. So let's see this piece in action. And again, this is not much code. All right, give me a number, 1 to 9. 8. Give me another number. Now watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take my pennies over here. I'm going to tap equal. So what I can do now, whoa, I had a whoa, yes, yes, I never thought I'd get a whoa, and a clap, and please don't stand, it's not that great, it's going to get better. So here you can see what I've done there is, I took my ink, I then did the recognition, and our APIs are super smart. They are really, really super smart. And when I hit equals, it goes, here's a string, go and do the calculation. Now, yes, I just took a string, but the other things our APIs are really smart at doing is recognizing text too, in terms of context. So there are APIs out there that allow you to work out a list. So if I do things in a line, it'll say to me, hey, Shen, you know what? You've just done a list. Would you like to interpret that differently? It's actually smart enough to recognize paragraphs and words. So rather than feeding you character at a time or a whole string, it'll say, you know what? I built up this massive tree, pretty much like the DOM of what's been written, and you can parse that tree however you like. So that's great, especially if you're, if you want to do things like parsing words or trees or maybe PDF files and things like that where people have inked. But the other great thing we also have is things like shape recognition. So I'm thinking maybe in my next talk, if I'm invited back next year, I'll come back and do Visio Pro. And what you can do basically is then go and do inking on shapes, and I'll say, hey, this is a square. It's great for diagramming, and I know there's a lot of apps out there that love to do that sort of stuff, so you can go and check those out too. All right, so we've done scale. And I know you're impressed by scale, because I've got a wow and a ooh. So next is material. Now, I think you probably noticed on some of the Windows builds, we've got this new acrylic thing. The idea around acrylic really is to help draw focus to things, which is the most important. So you'll generally find that acrylic gets used in things like navigation, where actually the user clicks navigation, but then we don't want to keep drawing their eye to the navigation once they're on a page. We want them to focus on the central area. And in this case, it'll be the same with history. So I'm going to do a git. The only part that I practiced of this demo was the git reset hard. It's pretty cool. Okay. Yes to all. You know what the most painful part about all these branches is? When I find there's a change that I need to do in the first branch, man, merging all the way through gets painful. But here we go. So I'm going to load up this application, and we'll show you again. Can I get it? Ooh, I don't think so. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Oh, minimize. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, so the calculator's already looking pretty good. And what you'll notice here is a couple of things. Notice that my title bar has now gone. Does anyone remember what the title bar used to look like? No? I'm glad you're all paying attention. It's great. It's good. So the main thing here is I've shifted the title bar up. I've also added acrylic on the side. And again, you'd be surprised how easy this is to do. Now, like I said before, I'm not a graphic designer. So, I'm kind of happy with this. I know there are a few people in the audience that are like, oh God, it looks like a train crash. But I can assure you, it'll be great once I've finished. So you can see here that I actually just added one line into my resource. And all I just do is add the acrylic brush, I give it a name. Now notice here we have the host backdrop. What the host backdrop means is, hey, I want you to fade all the way to show the desktop. Now there are instances where maybe you're like, I don't want to go all the way to the desktop. That becomes too distracting. Maybe I just want to go back to the, the very last layer of my application. In that case, I have a backdrop enumeration too. One interesting thing to note here is it's got a fallback color of gray and a tint color of white. So what does this mean? Well, there are times where your application will be running on devices where maybe it doesn't have a powerful GPU. Maybe it's running low on battery. What we don't want to do is start, taking resources away from that machine. So what Windows does is it's smart enough to realize, hey, you know what? You're going to get quite expensive on this particular device because it's running low on battery, for instance. So you can fall back to that color. The other thing is when it's inactive, so when I'm no longer using the application, maybe my mind is elsewhere, it also knocks it back to the fallback color. So this makes sure that you're being friendly to the user because that's what we want, but at the same time, when they re-engage, you're back again. It's kind of cool. Sorry, I sometimes impress myself with my design skills, or lack of. So what you can also notice is we've got some light. So out the box, when you start using things that are in UWP, we start giving you some of those Fluent goodnesses. So you don't have to do anything magical there as well. And let me quickly show you how I remove that title bar, because this is something we did in Mail. And a lot of people have been asking, how do I do that? So when my application launches, I do this. The first line here is saying, hey, I actually want my title bar to extend all the way up. This means my UI can touch the top. And then the other things I'm doing here is, A, setting the background color of the title bar. And the other two things I'm doing is, if you look at the control box, if you don't set the background of those to transparent, all of a sudden you'll start finding you have different colors. And maybe that's kind of cool. Maybe you could have like the Bulgarian flag in the color scheme. I got an idea. That'd be kind of cool. So that's where we are with acrylic. All right. And then the next thing, motion. So this is one of my favorites. I can get carried away, I won't lie. So I've tried to tame it down, just so I can remember everything. So the one thing I want to do here is, check out, is something called a connected animation. Reload. Okay. So I've realized that now I've got some inking, so I've got some natural user interface experiences, and people are loving all that great stuff because it's very fluent, and they can use it in the way that they feel is good to them. So if they want to use a pen, they can. If they want to use touch, they can. And also it looks beautiful. Now what you've noticed here is that I've decided to extend the capabilities of Calculator Pro to add charting. I thought since we're in the home of Telerik, it sort of made sense. So I thought what's really interesting for me is I want to know, and I think everyone should know who uses my app, how popular their calculations are. So I'm going to give them a chart that tells them out of all the calculations in the history they have, crowdsource that information, and then show them which ones are popular and which ones aren't. Because I'm sure you all want to know if 8 multiplied by 5 is more popular than 8 plus 6. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've got a new page, right? And it's chart, because it's going to be a chart in there, nothing exciting there. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm now going to show you what it looks like when I navigate to chart. Okay, are you ready for this? I mean, this is going to be fun if it works. Yay! There was one ooh. I think that was more but it's okay. So now I've got this connected animation. You can see that actually what's happening is I'm actually navigating between the two pages. And let me show you. what it looks like. Chart button. So as I said before, I'm not the most designer, sort of artistic person when it comes to app building, but you get the idea. So we're using something called the connected animation service. This is a static class that allows you to then go and say, treat it like juggling, right? So you'll say, in my left hand, I have all these juggling balls, and I want to get them to the right hand. So what you'll then say is, okay, I'm going to name the balls ABC. So I want ABC. I'm going to throw them up in the air. While it's in the air, change page, and I'm going to catch them at the other end. That's the whole premise behind this. So as you navigate, what the connected animation service is doing is it's picking up those pieces and carrying them on without losing that particular frame. So in this case here, if we have a look, we have connected animation. I'm going to actually prepare to animate. So what this means is, hey, I'm about to throw these particular UI elements up in the air before I go and navigate the page. So I've got a chart logo. So I'm going to go to my main page, and I'm going to show you this chart logo. So you go, chart button, sorry. So I've got a chart button, and what I'm going to say here is, okay, I'm going to give you the key of chart logo, and then from there, I'm also going to give you a chart button. Now, in that chart button, I want you to store that, so when I go and do a frame.navigate to my chart page, I still have those objects available. Then at the other end, I'll then use the connected animation again, and I'll say, hey, can you get the animation called chart logo? And then I'm going to try and start the animation. And what I'm doing here is I'm passing in the chart button, because on the chart page, I have the button, and this is the placeholder where it's got to be dropped inside. So to recap, I have a chart button, I create an animation saying chart logo, I say prepare this, I then do a navigate. And once I've navigated, I then say get me the chart logo animation and make sure that the contents go inside this chart button. So if I do that again, I click and it'll prepare the animation, and then it'll navigate, and it'll drop it in the place. Now I know kind of this probably isn't exciting because of the color, so I'm going to change this up a bit. Let's try this. Is it green and red? Have we got that right? And then we'll change this to vertical. I'll show you a Visual Studio trick if you guys don't know this. If you hit the Alt key, do you know you can do block edits? Yeah? How did I do that? Yes! All right. So if there's anything you take away, it was a Visual Studio shortcut and nothing about UWP. Oh. All right, let me show you again. So what you're going to do is if you usually use Shift, and if you go down, you get that selection. But if you hold Alt at the same time, it'll do a block selection. No worries. Please stay for the rest of the session. I'll figure out other shortcuts. All right. So I'm just going to say the height is 35, and we'll say, since it's my new feature that I'm using, there you go. All right. So now when I run this, you guys are all thinking, oh my God, that was the best thing. All right. Isn't it cool? All right. Thank you. Now, of course, we recommend animations are like 500 milliseconds, so you don't distract the user. I kind of like having the Britney Spears mic, but it's also very annoying. One thing we can do here is we can actually just slow it down a bit. So I can just default duration, time span. Actually, is it a time span? Yeah. From give me a number between 2 and 2. 2. That's what I was thinking. Okay. So let's do this again so you can see exactly what we do under the hood. So you can see we do some sort of morphing, but it's depending on your UI elements as well. Like we can actually work out that you're changing maybe a height of the UI element, and we'll actually just do that animation straight for you, so you don't always see like a blurry thing in the middle and swap it out. So okay, so the good thing is, now I've got an engaging and a nice transition between two pages. So I've got my main page with the calculator to a page that has nothing. But I will now put in Telerik chart. So I'll do a reset on this as well, just in case. Now I'm assuming I don't really need to talk too much about charting on Telerik with this audience. I mean, normally I would go all out and say, this is amazing, check it out, it's the coolest thing ever. But I mean, you're all here, so you already know this. But I'm going to do it anyway. So let's load this up. Okay, I'm going to add maybe a few more in there. So let's just do 2 plus 2. 1 multiplied by 7. Oh no. That's my fault. I've got terrible handwriting. Okay. Let's start this again. One multiplied by 7. It doesn't like. I think 7 is not a good number for anybody anyway. So, you know what? I actually think we've got enough numbers there. I actually think I've also broken Visual Studio. Look at that. Okay, we'll do this. Right click, debug, start new instance. Cool. So what I'm now going to do is, I'm going to show you Telerik charting. But who thinks, all right, let's, hands in the air. Who thinks 5 multiplied by 5 is the highest, most used number around the world? Few of you. Okay. 8 plus 6. 3 multiplied by 74. I like that you guys are participating in this really random conversation. 8 multiplied by 5. 2 plus 2. Uh-oh. And finally, who really doesn't care? No. Yeah. All right, here we go. So I'm tapping. 8 multiplied by 5. The rest of you are losers. No. So you can see here that actually in UWP it's kind of great, because what we've done is we built a lot of controls, but we're also utilizing a lot of third-party components as well. And Telerik is just one of them. You can see it does an amazing job of rendering stuff. It also means that a lot of customers are already used to using a lot of these controls. Like Telerik has a good brand, everyone uses it. So the nice thing here is that same principle that they use to build apps that use these particular controls can be used in UWP too. It's not just all about Microsoft, Microsoft, Microsoft. It should be just everybody. And that's one thing I wanted to try and demonstrate with this. Now, I would normally show you the code, but it's kind of not real. So, I mean, it's just interesting to see how random really is. I'm assuming, yeah, see? I have a lot of users, that's why. All right. So the next thing I want to do is, I think I've sort of gotten to the point now where I've sort of shown you some of the cool stuff around what we do with connected animations, and we've got Telerik and things like that. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is notifications and things like that, because I want to talk about user engagement. Because what we generally find is when, as Christian mentioned earlier, people download an application. They'll use it once or twice, or if it's critical, like an expense application, they'll use it once a month. Or in my case, I get told off by my manager because I don't do it often enough, so once a year. What you'll find is toast notifications are a great way to do that as long as you don't annoy people. But I'm going to use it in this scenario to show you how we can use toast notifications as a way to do prize giving. So if you do, let's say, 10 calculations, we'll give you a badge. And what I'm going to do here is I want to show you very quickly the notification visualizer. So has anyone used the notification visualizer? people know what it is? No? You do? Oh, one person? Okay. So if you're ever going to do a notification or a tile, I highly recommend this application. You can find it in the store. And the idea here is you can select the type of thing you want to do, whether it's in this case, these are all tiles. But also, we have payloads for things on notifications. And you can see there, you'll get a render of exactly what you want here. And then when you're ready, you can hit export code, and it gives you all the magic here. And you can just copy and paste that directly into your application. So let's. Alrighty. So I decided, we said for every 10. So that must mean I need to add more calculations. And 1 multiplied by 7 is not a good option. I think it's the way I do the number 7. I'll have to... Okay. No, you know what it is because I'm a pretty sloppy handwriting person. And I'm just like going all over the screen. The X as in this? Yeah. As in why is it not a star?
No, why is it an X and why is it a multiply in this one? The above is an X, that's a multiply.
Oh, that's my poor rendering. Because what I do is I use a string and I just use X. It's not scientific, I know. But I was 10 years old when I built this library. So, you know, I mean, I'm doing worse things in this application than using the multiplication thing, trust me. I mean, you've seen my crowdsourcing efforts. So here we go. So I'm gonna add a few more things in here. So 3 multiplied by 3. I'm gonna do 5 minus 6, because it even does negative numbers. How many have I got there? 3, 6, 7. Feel free to just shout out random numbers.
Random numbers.
I'm not listening to Chris. Da-da-da! Look at that! I got a 10 item badge. So, I know, it's sad, but it's okay. The simple things in life please me, okay? And notification is one of them. I mean, I get excited because someone went, ooh. So here we go. So the final thing. So what did I do there for my toast notification? Well, I used the visualizer, and then I literally copy and pasted the code. Like, this is the nice thing about it. You just find the one you like, and then you copy and paste it. And you can see here that you have 2 ways to do a notification. People are very much used to doing here's some XML, and let's drop it in. But actually, thanks to some of the work that the notification team have done, they've now made that an object model too. So in C#, you can declare all this magic, and then copy and paste, and then when you're done, you get a toast. So the final thing, this is my big thing, because basically I got kind of upset when Windows 10 came out. And I tell you why. Because of this. I saw there was a new calculator. And you're never going to guess what the new calculator has. Are you ready? Yes, it's got acrylic. Fine. 1 multiplied by 7. 1 multiplied by 7. Even that works. Yeah. So already I see that Microsoft saw my idea and decided they were going to do one better. And then I thought, this is okay. There are plenty of calculators that do this. Until they added this responsive design thing that adds a history. I was like, what, are you kidding me? They even have a delete button. I mean, man. So that was it. I am livid. So I'm going to add a feature that I know they will not add, right? Because I know engagement is the key. I also know everyone loves their assistants, right? Everyone has a virtual assistant. Someone in this room, actually, who in this room doesn't have a virtual assistant? I mean, if you've got a phone, you do have a virtual assistant. I'm sure it's me. So this is the thing. So I'm thinking my UWP could have this, right? I could so make a virtual assistant, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a feature called My People. And what My People does, in essence, is it's great for chatbots if you've got a chatbot in your application. But the other thing it's good for is basically creating a window in which your application can run from the taskbar without necessarily the user having to launch it. I know it's a bit, it's crazy. So let me show you exactly what I mean. Okay, yes, I've got 10. Fine, right. You'll notice here, I have a new icon because one icon wasn't enough. So here I've created, it's a very simple button, but I'll show you what happens when I click it. When I click it, it's going to say, hey, do you want to pin a contact? And I'm like, why yes, why not? So Calculator Pro comes in, I hit pin, and then all of a sudden, I mean, out of all the virtual assistants in the world, I got this guy. So I'm like, yes, this is cool, but what does he give me? Well, let me show you. So I'm going to go to Clippy, and you'll see here that actually Clippy talks to quite a few people, one of them being my app. I see you're trying to perform a calculation. Well, yes, I am. And as you can see, Clippy's pretty happy, he's just spinning around in his animated GIF way. But what I can now do is I can interact directly with my application. So I can do things like 1 multiplied by 7. And Clippy's smart, because Clippy will go 7. Does anyone want to try something? Give me a number, 1 to 9. Sorry? 7 times 1. Let's do this. Plus 7. Watch this. I bet I'm going to get an exception now because I'm going over some number. It's like, sorry. It's yes. So, okay. So Clippy is pretty advanced and it's kind of cool. But what's interesting here is actually what's happening is my people is loading an instance of my application. You can see there. So it's still written to the SQL database and things. But let me show you what's happened. Under the hood, when I launch my application, it actually launches as an activated type. So let me go on activated. And you'll see here I've gone, hey, if you are launched from a contact panel, then I don't want you to go to the main page where the calculator is. I want you to go to the My People page, which is here, which essentially is just a list view with a button. But again, as the user types in there, I will store that conversation, and I go and do my calculation. And I'll be able to redirect. And the nice thing about this is if you've got an application where you're constantly wanting to engage with the user, then this is a handy tool to have because they don't always have to go to the start menu or they don't have to search for it because they've now been added as a contact, and you can do this with chat things. So if you've got Skype, for instance, now you can actually attach your contacts directly to the taskbar, and you can have that conversation without ever having to load the application, which is really nice. So I know you're all impressed, especially by this one. And if you're not, you're a tough audience. But I thought the good news is, because UWPs are so quick to build, I did one in just under an hour. You have time to build an Easter egg. So I want to show you what you can do with some of our composition APIs. And I'm not saying this is what you should use them for. I mean, Easter eggs are great and everything, but we can do some pretty aggressive rendering, even without the need to go to a DirectX level. So who can guess the key combination to get my Easter egg? And if someone says 1 multiplied by 7, I will hunt you down. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's a good guess, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I was kind of lazy, so you just click this button. And I want to welcome you to Kompenstein. So here is a 3D world. Who remembers this game? Yeah, I played this when I was 10 years old. It's cool. All right, and by the way, if anyone's wondering who this freaky guy is, that's Chris's manager, just so you're wondering. I just started to plug him in there just so I can embarrass him. So you can see here that my UWP's been able to do a lot of different things, and you've been able to engage with it in many different ways. And when you compare to what we had in the WinForms, I'm sure you can now agree that it's progressed a long way. So with that, I want to say thank you for listening. I believe that, yeah, no, please feel free to clap. I mean, I don't say no. I know you're all dying for my Calculator Pro. So it's available on source there if you want to have a play and actually have a better understanding of how we did some of the stuff and deeper dive into the code. But also, we've been asked to do a feedback thing. Please be nice. I want to come back next year. But otherwise, thank you very much.